Lake Effect brings you conversations about what's happening in Milwaukee and the people, places, and organizations that shape our community. This is Lake Effect Spotlight from WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.
Every year, Milwaukee Magazine comes out with a feature highlighting the city's most beloved people and places. The Best of Milwaukee issue features dozens of categories readers vote on, like the Best Pizza and Best Indian Restaurant. Chris Drosner is the executive editor of Milwaukee Magazine. He says the magazine's editors also got in on the fun and made their picks for the best custard in the city. Drosner joins Lake Effect's Xcaret Nuñez to talk about this year's list.
There is a lot to dig into in the latest issue of Milwaukee Magazine, but can you start by giving me an overview of what listeners can expect in this year's Best of Milwaukee?
Yeah, this is kind of our signature issue. It's kind of the essence of what we do all year round that is boiled into a single feature that kind of celebrates the greatest things that are happening here in Milwaukee. Every year we start this process pretty early in spring, brainstorming ideas and kind of deciding on the direction. There's a lot of different ways to talk about the great stuff in this city. And we've done a lot of them through the years. You know, sometimes we've leaned more on guest opinions, or we have our Reader's Choice poll. That's always a really central part of it. But how much that's featured kind of varies from year to year. Our editor pick's going to be kind of free form. Like in the last few years, I have kind of thought about Best of Milwaukee as almost like a year in review kind of thing, talking about all the new stuff that, you know, through whatever reason we haven't really been able to cover in the magazine, and kind of having that all in one place. So this year we had a list of ideas that was 7 pages long, which is a lot. So we were able to kind of shape it into what it was, which is, I would say this year we kind of went a little bit more on the Reader's Choice survey, which is, of course, people saying what they think the best new restaurant is or best tacos. But we kind of made that the centerpiece and explored different ways to have fun with the results of that as creative magazine stories.
Yeah, so it seems like a lot of moving parts to putting this really well put together issue together. How is it different from previous years? You know, this is like one of the most, I feel like, anticipated issues every year.
Like last year, we kind of had a your best, our best, and their best parallelism. So we had guest curators who talked about their favorite things. We had our best, which is like our editors' picks for things. And then we had the Reader's Choice survey. So there's kind of these 3 levels. And this year we kind of went further into, like, we wanted to bring our areas of expertise or our unique perspectives sometimes on this topic. So instead of doing like, here's some stuff that we thought was cool this year, it's let's taste test 6 different frozen pizzas, or let's have somebody with fresh eyes or fresh palate maybe determine what's the best custard in the city, you know, that kind of stuff, which is a little bit different. But, you know, we wanted to kind of bring our unique perspectives or expertise to bear.
Yeah. So let's take a look through the magazine. I feel like my biggest takeaway is how clever and intentional you all were in like playing with readers' choices, how you were mentioning that. So one example I really enjoyed was the full day of activities planned out by the readers' choices, and also this really cool curated list of dining editor Ann Christensen's favorite things to eat using the readers' top choices.
Yeah, one of the pieces was what Ann's pick for a dish was at each of these different restaurant places. So like what to get at room service, which one best new restaurant, what to get at Lake Park Bistro, which one for fine dining, you know, how to kind of be a diner in these different places. And also, like, there are some disagreements. And for a few of the like cuisine-based ones, like we had Mexican, pizza, Indian, vegetarian, and had, I wouldn't necessarily call it disagreements, but, you know, like, here's my pick for this, which is a way of just kind of adding more stuff to the list. You know, I mean, it's subjective which of these things is actually the best. So here's a couple options to try out.
Definitely. And I'm sure that like readers, as they're going through the readers' choices list, you know, I saw the Indian restaurants like you're mentioning. Mine's Tandoor. Didn't even make it to top 3.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of my favorite sections, you were kind of alluding to it, was ranking like custard places or agreeing to disagree with readers' choices. Like you guys totally didn't shy away from being cheeky.
I mean, when you're taste testing custard, you have to take a stand here. And our culture editor, Evan, is relatively new to Wisconsin. So he had kind of a fresh perspective on this. And he kind of opens the piece saying, like, I feel like people have these like deeply ingrained opinions about custard. And it's like, this is my place. And it's like, well, okay, why is it your place? It's like, oh, I've been going there forever. It's like, okay, well, I can get away from that bias and just evaluate it. And he took it very seriously. He went real hard on this. Only doing vanilla custard, which sounds super boring to me, but he thought it was like the clearest expression of like what a good custard is, like you can't hide behind like, moose tracks or whatever. So it's a simple, clear version of a custard, and he evaluated it on creaminess and taste and vanilla flavor and all that stuff. I think one of them, I thought this was funny, that one of his characteristics was how fast or not it melts, which I would not have thought to think about, but that's great. And he came away with a little bit of a zag, I think, when people tend to zig in this town. Leon's and Kopp's are kind of the two top favorites probably in the city. And he came away with Gillis's and Wauwatosa being his favorite. So, we're not setting out for hot takes here, but we kind of ended up with one, I think, there. I'm a Tosa resident. I enjoy Gillis's. I don't know if I would.
What's your top pick?
Agree. I don't know. I mean, it's custard. It's all good. This is the thing about these taste tests is when you actually get down and start evaluating these things, you kind of want to deconstruct the experience. And it does take away a little bit of the joy of it. I mean, like when you're being critical of something, it's kind of work to do these things. But you for the reader is, of course, like not everything needs to be fun for us. But hopefully it's useful and, kind of helps find the nuances in these things that might be otherwise very similar.
So what you're saying is journalism is really tough work. Well, yeah, you guys also, like you said, tried frozen pizzas, which wasn't like an option for people to vote best of.
Yeah, not everything was necessarily like a direct reflection of the Reader's Choice poll. People eat a lot of frozen pizza, and it's kind of like the custard thing, like you kind of have your go-to, but there are a lot of them out there. So we taste tested, I think it was 5 different ones that are made in Wisconsin and came away with some interesting takes. Our favorite was the Screamin' Sicilian Tavern style, which I loved. But it only, like, the rankings were not super high for a lot of the other ones that I eat on a regular basis. So again, I think it's like paying close attention to the thing that you're doing instead of just kind of the overall experience.
Well, I'm sure categories or winners maybe don't change very often over the years, but I'm wondering if there's like a standout pick for you this year.
Yeah, that's true. The voice of the Reader's Choice tends to be pretty consistent, but we do mix up categories year to year. So in a lot of these categories, especially in food, the food and drink stuff is everybody's favorite categories. We see the volume of votes, and everything. I was pleasantly surprised, I guess, this year that Flower Girl and Flame won pizza, because that is a competitive category. The second and third were Balistreri's and Zaffiro's, which are both like awesome Milwaukee-style pizzerias. There's so many great ones like Y East, Maria's, like on and on and on. And Flower Girl and Flame, which is a relatively new one and has definitely a real positive ethos, was the winner. So it felt like a new era or something within that category. But we try to have some fun with the categories and mix them up a little bit while also being consistent. Some other publications that do this have like many more categories. We have something like 63 or 4 or something like that this year. And we mix it up. There's no franchises here. New restaurant obviously is going to be in there every year. Fine dining is usually in there every year. But a lot of the other ones we kind of mix and match to kind of just make an interesting overall package year to year in the poll.
There's a lot of ideas and thought that goes into all of this. Before we wrap up, is there something that stood out to you in this issue in general that you hope readers enjoy too?
I'll say one of my favorite pieces this year was our designer, Bianca Cabral, put together a piece of her. The headline is My Mexican Milwaukee, and she called out a bunch of different places in her old neighborhood of Clark Square where she grew up and still spends a lot of time. Like La Sierrita is her, kind of comfort food go-to. It was really well done, and I thought it really rounded out the whole experience of this is a large and diverse city, and there's not one Milwaukee, there are many Milwaukees. And I was really happy that she put that forward and wrote something that was really excellent.
Absolutely. I mean, this is just a great issue for locals and newbies to read. I know when I moved to Milwaukee, it was my guide to getting to know the city.
That is certainly what we hope it is. We think of Milwaukee Magazine as a guide to getting the most out of Milwaukee and understanding it, and that's kind of our mission. And this is the most distilled version of that mission that we do every year.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for speaking with me today and sharing your team's work with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Chris Drosner is the executive editor of Milwaukee Magazine. He spoke with Lake Effect's Xcaret Nuñez. You can find the Best of Milwaukee feature in this month's issue of Milwaukee Magazine. Coming up next, we'll look at a new book of photography featuring the Great Lakes. That's next on Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.
You can find more interviews like this one by visiting wuwm.com/Lake Effect. And while you're there, subscribe to the Lake Effect Spotlight podcast.